Hey, Defenders, this is Andy Fiore. Just wanted to remind you guys that please spread the word about Defend Your Movie. If you like the podcast, if you love the podcast, tell a friend, and please subscribe, rate, and comment if you would on iTunes. We'll take suggestions on Twitter. Follow us at Defend Your Movie on Twitter and send us an email at defendyourmovie@gmail.com. So again, subscribe, rate, and review, and spread the word, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks, guys.
In a world full of movie podcasts, here is one more. Welcome to Defend Your Movie with Sean Donnelly.
The time has come again. The champion must stand. It can only be one of us. Victoria! So stand up and fight, my friend. There's a title you must defend. Shut it on and on. Bring it to me. Defend your movie.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Defend Your Movie. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Andrew Fiore, and on the phone calling me all the way from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, is my co-host, Mr. Sean Donnelly. How are you, buddy, out there in the desert?
Hello there, buddy. How are you? I am in a pretty decent-sized hotel room right now at the Rio in Las Vegas.
Very nice,
The Rio,
very
the
nice.
most popular hotel of 1989.
It still says it on the marquee.
Yeah. No,
Well-
but I'm good, man.
That's fantastic. I know, this isn't ideal for the listeners, but we wanted to give you guys at least something, a nice little quick tidbit, since we forgot to schedule, we forgot to look at our calendars, and we forgot that we were both going to be in two different cities at once, but we wanted to make something happen at least.
Absolutely. And I think we have a good idea. It'll be a quick episode, but we have a good idea for the episode because obviously I flew out here and we have a whole untapped discussion that we never really broached about. I mean, maybe we mentioned airplane movies before.
I don't remember, but it is a genre that, both comedians, we both fly all the time, and you kind of just don't give it a second thought. You're just like, I watch it on the plane. But before we we do have some things that we watched this week before we get to the meat and potatoes. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Well, the stuff that you started, because the stuff that I watched was on the plane.
Okay, cool.
A couple different things.
So I watched a couple Netflix things, and then I watched one theater thing. I finally finished the Ted Bundy documentary, which was crazy and pretty much as we expected it to be, but still very interesting.
And was it just like, hey, he part of the reason was the implication like he got away with this because he's a really good-looking dude? Like, was that part of it?
That was part of the theme of it, and he had the ego of like, I did nothing wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, wow.
And he thought he was going to get away with it, even when it was just like mounting evidence against him in court. He had this arrogance where he was just like, "Yeah, I'll probably pull this off." You know what I mean? And then, but there were women that they interviewed outside the courthouse who were like, "Yeah, he's dreamy, a guy who looks like that. I mean, I can't see him doing anything wrong." It's like that's crazy. It's 1970s mentality.
Dude, there's something. It's not even that. Like, there's still women that like write. There's like a whole. Dude, there was they were talking about it on. Was it Mike Vecchione's and Justin Silver's podcast? They have one on the Gas Network where Shannon, who works for that studio, she was. On
the bonfire. They did this too.
Yeah, the bonfire. Maybe that was it. Yeah, did she talk about the bonfire?
Their producer, for no disrespect, is like writes love letters to inmates.
Yes. So it's still a thing. It's something about like
very much some weird attraction there.
It sounds corny, but it's like the bad boy thing. Like that is a thing. Like that is, and it's always going to be something. It's always. That's why when women are like men are jerks, it's like, well, don't date an inmate then.
I know. It's something in that like I can transform him once I get with him. It'll be
Yeah,
crazy.
It's like I will be the one who he changes for, or I will be able to manipulate the situation so he'll turn himself around for me. You know?
Right, yeah. So watched that, which was very good, very interesting, nice 4-parter. I watched the Netflix original movie one of the Duplass brothers made with Ray Romano, Paddleton.
Oh, how was that?
It was okay. That's my takeaway.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was a very kind of depressing. I don't know if you know anything about it.
I don't know anything about it. I know I watched the time travel one they did, isn't it? I know one of them is in a time travel one with the girl from Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And I think I like whenever I say I like the Duplass brothers, it's because I like the guy from The League. That's why I always say
Me too. Same here.
People know them from the stuff they create, and I'm always like, yeah, me too. I love that too, but I'm kind of lying when I'm not too familiar with it. You know,
I'm kind of the same way. So yeah, it's one of those like slice of life movies where it's just a timeline of a few months. A friend gets terminal cancer, and then it's basically they go on a little road trip to find this medicine where he doesn't want it to he doesn't want his life to get bad. He wants to be able to take this medicine and be able to end his life on his own terms peacefully. So it's kind of about these two next door neighbors who are best friends and their little relationship leading up to his death, and that's really all it is. There's no more bells and whistles than that. It's just that story of a few months. Very straightforward. The writing was fun. You forget how good of a dramatic actor Ray Romano can be.
Oh, he's fantastic. Well, he's had a second life because of it. Like,
absolutely.
Him and anybody who talks about that show Vinyl that lasted like a year, they're like, he was great.
He was great. I would have loved to have seen that show get a second season. He was Men of a Certain Age. I don't know if you ever watched that. He was really good in.
No, yeah, he's a great actor. And that's the hard thing to do. Like, he's like a legitimate actor. Like, that's why he keeps working like this, you know? To go with his strengths.
So I noticed that most of all. I kept going, oh man, Ray Romano is a really good actor. Other than that, I didn't love it. It didn't like have that eccentricity of like a Wes Anderson where he can take a subject like that and really twist the dark humor. There was no really. It was just a very straight up relationship movie about these two best friends, and you kind of don't know if they're in love with each other or not the whole time.
Oh, okay, that was probably the point of it. Yeah,
but it was okay. It was enjoyable.
You realize with those movies, it's funny. It's all about the writing. Those movies are, you can have some cool shots in them, and maybe some cool cinematography here and there, depending on who's doing it. But the writing really has to stand out for those types of movies for them to get noticed. That's all you have at that point.
Funny you say that because Lou Witzke just handed me a note, our beloved DJ Lou, saying they improvised most of the movie.
Oh,
which
really?
I had no idea, and that does make a lot more sense, but even speaks to their talent even more. That's true, Lou?
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
So there you go.
Improvised drama? That's crazy.
That is tough improvised drama.
Holy cow.
That puts a whole new light on it for me.
Now I want to check it out. Maybe I'll watch it on my phone in Las Vegas.
I wish I knew that going in. I would have looked at it in a completely different light.
Yeah, well, it's more of it. It's excusable, and then on top of it, it's a huge undertaking. And also, you wonder how much are you filming for that? Jesus Christ!
Yeah, right.
They must have done 50 takes per. Like that's insane.
I know, for real.
To get to the point, it's almost like because they do like the episodes of Curb like that, where he has where he wants to go.
Sure.
But to do that for a dramatic movie, it's like, how is that even a thing? Like how? That's really, really good.
Well, that's very cool.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
And then third and finally, I watched Creed 2, finally.
Oh, yeah. What'd you think?
I know I was late to the ballgame, but I loved it. It's great. I love the rebirth. Maybe not even a rebirth of the franchise, because it's always kind of been there, but it has a new spin on the franchise, and I love it. I love the Creed era.
It's exactly what's going on, dude. I'll tell you right now. Creed. This is what I said when it came out. I don't know if I said this I might have said this on a different podcast, but I said that Creed 2 now makes Rocky 4 a better movie.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying?
100% it does.
Just by having that thrown into the almost like revamping it and being like it made like Creed, like it made the whole thing with him dying in Rocky 4 was kind of silly back then when it happened.
Yeah.
Back then you were like, you were like, wait, he's died.
It was almost cheesy. You're like, oh, they just, come on.
Yeah,
Just
it was
so
like
you can set
melodramatic.
up the revenge fight.
Exactly. But with this, you're like, oh no, like if you do it, if you show, like you're showing clips of it, you're not watching all of Rocky IV. So you're like, it makes it cooler. It makes it makes it a better. It really, and also it makes it a great springboard for all the Creed movies.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I was thinking that exactly when it ended. I go, what are they going to do from here? This is going to be interesting and fun to see where they go.
Well, somebody, I was talking to a friend of the show, Pat Stango, and who has a podcast, How to Watch Movies the Right Way, that you guys should check out, a really funny podcast about movies. And I think we were talking about it right when we saw Creed 2, because we saw it together.
Yeah.
I think we all had the thought, you have to have the next one, Stallone dies. That has to be.
Yeah, it's coming because they do. He is cured.
The cancer. Yeah. He's cured, but it could come back.
And they do reunite him with his son at the end, which was a very nice. It was a very father-son movie at the end there, with Adonis talking to Creed's grave and Rocky going to visit his, I guess, estranged son. Yeah,
it was great. It was great. Really, really great. They do a great job with those movies, but even though it did wrap things up, it kind of left the door open. Like, people are expecting a Creed 3, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But at this point, are you going to get Michael B. Jordan for a third sequel to a movie?
I don't see why not. I mean, he seems to he does the role really well. Why don't you think he would?
Because it would have to be a really good script and because quality wise, it could hurt his career if it's awful. If it's awful, it's one of those things that it could be a bad decision on somebody's part. Like,
I guess so, but I have confidence now in this new generation of Rocky / Creed movies that the quality will be there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
like the first two have been great. The first two
is unbelievably good.
Unbelievable.
It's so good. And the second one, basically, it's funny because I think I brought it up when we talked about it on the show before you saw it. I go, it's Rotten Tomatoes kind of nailed it with this. When it first came out, it was like 10% less than the first one. I was like, yeah, that's how much less good it is. Like, it's like perfect.
That's fun.
You're literally like, yeah, this is like, I like this 10% less, like in your head.
Yeah, exactly. It starts a little slow, and it follows the Rocky formula where you got to take a loss to get a W. Loved the. It's great seeing Drago again. It was also cool to see how they did not give Brigitte Nielsen one word to say. She is such a train wreck. They just go, just sit there. We'll just shoot you. You don't need to say anything.
Yeah, just get your Roxette haircut from '93.
I mean, how bad could she have been? Like, to not even say anything? Because even in that dinner scene where she was like,
does say something.
I don't think she does.
Doesn't she say, or she runs after him or something when he gets mad and he runs away, the kid, and then because she snubs him at the dinner party. Like, she's the real villain.
No. They go, you must be very proud of your son. And he gets up and storms away before she even has a chance to respond. And then Ivan goes and follows him, And then the last kind of scene when they're in the Moscow fight, Victor is kind of starting to get beaten by Adonis. And she just kind of does one of those head nods to her new husband now, and they just get up and leave. There's no dialogue whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. But that proves to you, like, they have all this stuff in mind, dude. Like, the minute we have this goofball start talking, it becomes a 1980s movie again.
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
true.
They know that, like, the minute she tries to act, we're sunk. We're done.
Yeah. But Dolph Lundgren was great, and the kid who played Victor Drago was great. I loved it. It was, it's just one of those movies that just you love. I'm so glad they're making new ones. It reminds me of my childhood, and it's exciting to see where the franchise goes from here.
Also, the kid who played Drago, the kid, Victor, was jacked. That kid was
monster.
Monster.
He had like 6 inches on Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like he made him look puny at some point, you know?
Yeah.
And then the best is they have, like, my favorite part is when they have him do, like, they can't be like, hey, you're going to go to Russia to work out. They just have, he takes them to, like, that, like, Mad Max workout place.
Oh, it was
like,
great. Yeah, I loved it.
So good.
Sean, I'm just getting another note from Lewitsky. It says they improvised most of Creed 2.
Wow, they improvised a lot of movies.
That really came together for coming off the top of your head.
Yeah, Lou was just going crazy. It was like, Gone with the Wind, also improvised.
So yeah, let's get to the meats and the potatoes of this week's episode.
Meats and the potatoes of the podcast. For all you defenders out there, it's basically, we're not defending. Here's the thing. I think as far as the defense part, what is your game plan when you're on a plane? Because I want to ask you before I tell you why I don't watch new movies on the plane lately.
All right.
When you're on the plane, what's your game plan? I'm definitely gonna watch a brand new movie.
Yeah, well, first of all, it depends on how long of a flight I have. If I don't like starting and stopping something and saving for later, so if it's something I can watch, if it's a 4.5-hour flight, I'll almost guaranteed to watch one movie. And if I'm watching it in flight, like on the TV screen behind me, if it's not something from like my iPad or anything, I'm definitely going through and just seeing what they have that I'll like the most, because I'm gonna watch something like just to kill the time. You know what I mean? Like even if something I don't necessarily am dying to see, I will watch something just to keep me entertained for 2 hours.
Yes.
Other than that,
my thing is,
I don't have like a movie player. Like I don't have an iPad. I never have. I sometimes watch stuff on my phone, but that's basically downloading mostly like TV shows from Netflix. I can just download it and watch it offline. So, because I just hate watching like anything more than like half-hour installments on my little phone. You know what I mean? So it's either in flight on the screen for me, or I don't really watch movies.
Well, you know what I do is, what I'm asking is because I started to do a thing where, like, I was on JetBlue, their broadcast TV just wasn't working in the whole plane. I think it was the weather was all messed up. That's why, because I left right before the snow. And but I thought, I was like, I'm not going to watch a new movie because now I have this thing where I'm so comfortable on planes, I pass out. Like, and I miss like whole chunks of movies. So I'm like, I don't want to watch a new one and then have to go back and rewatch it. Even if it's not that, because if it's not that good, you're like, oh god, I have to go rent this crappy movie so I can see this 1.5 hour that I don't want to do that.
That happened to me last year with flying to San Francisco. There was like, what was that Zach Galifianakis like heist break-in movie?
Oh god, with him and Kristen Wiig?
Yeah, it looked like it was a good cast. It looked like it was going to be funny. And then I'm on my way out to the West Coast. About an hour in, I just zonked out, and this is not holding my attention.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, but that happens a lot. So I was like, I should just go with things that I know I'll dig. And it's funny because I was like, I had the intention when we first started taking off. I was like, oh, I'll watch the beginning of Caddyshack. I watched all of Caddyshack, and that was kind of fun. That was just like classic, you know? Yeah. But we've done Caddyshack on the show, and then, but the weird thing about I had to deal with something the whole flight. I had a lady. She was an older Asian woman, right? She was nice, I guess. So she was doing this thing where a few different weird things. First of all, once the plane got airborne, she got out in the middle of the aisle, and she was doing only what I can describe as Tai Chi up and down the aisle of the plane. I'm not being racist. I think
I get it. I can, but it's just like, come on.
Yeah. So she was doing that. So every time she would come near the seat, I would start to get up to be like, "You want to go back?" And she'd be like, and shake her head, no, right? And then she didn't know how to work the TV on the headrest. So like, she would just have me put on anything. So I go, "Do you want me to put on?" So literally, I put on like Inception for her, but she had no headphones.
Dude, you can't.
She was watching.
You're gonna if she couldn't figure out the TV, she's not gonna follow the plot line of Inception. I can barely follow it, and
well, also she had no.
Put on the most confusing movie ever for you, ma'am.
Well, well, like I said, I go, do you want to watch Inception? And she's like, yeah. Like, she nods yes. I'm like, okay. And I hit Inception. And then I find her just watching the screen of Inception. And then I watched Caddyshack. And then while I'm watching Caddyshack, and I watched Matrix after it, while I'm watching those movies, I kind of, my peripheral vision, I look to my right with my peripheral, and she's leaning her head, like, towards my shoulder, watching my screen. And just like, but like for a long period of time. And I'm like, and then I turn around, I just smile, like, hi. And then she just goes back to her screen. And she was nice enough, but she was like, but it was pretty funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I watched Caddyshack, and then Caddyshack was awesome. And then, I hadn't watched it all the way through in a long time. And then I watched The Matrix and the original Matrix, which I haven't watched in a long time.
Same
and
here.
One of the things I realized, I'll tell you, it holds up, like, story-wise. It's funny. It's like Keanu Reeves. That guy just doesn't age.
I know.
Like, you can
I was
tell
watching
he
John
looks
Wick the other
younger.
day, and it's just, same.
Yeah, because he's probably 50 right now, and you can tell he looks younger in the first Matrix, but it's not by that much. Like the guy just doesn't age. And but I'll tell you one thing that doesn't hold up is intermittent effects, like slight effects on there. Like there's a couple of different scenes where you're like, oh, this is from 25 years ago. Like,
right.
or whatever.
What is that, 99?
99. So
Yeah.
20 years ago, exactly. So, but you can tell, like, it's pretty obvious, which rightfully so. But you're like, it literally just looks, there's scenes where it looks like they're just throwing green blobs of slime. Like, it makes no sense. Like, so that doesn't hold up. But, like, the idea of what it is, and it still is a good movie. Like, I was watching it like, oh yeah, I'm staying interested in this, and I've watched this multiple times. So that's a good sign,
That's cool. I never got into it.
Yeah.
I watched that one in college once. Never went back to the rest of the franchise ever. So I might not have seen it since 1999.
Well, I'll tell you. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so if you saw it now, you'd be like, you know what? To be honest, it was funny because I hadn't watched it in a while. I forgot. There's a couple of things that I didn't even, when I first saw it, storyline wise, I didn't realize what was the case. Like, I forgot that it was that it was AI. I forgot it was basically a battle between humans and AI. That's the whole idea of it. And which isn't that
Right.
like right now? Like, if you remember, you watch Her, it's just basically like the romantic comedy version of The Matrix.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of saying the same thing in Her. Like, what'd be funny is if Her is the beginning of The Matrix, is like the prequel to The Matrix. Like,
Yeah.
remember how?
Okay, yeah, that's
Her,
true.
Right? Remember how she disappears at the end? Like, maybe she disappears because they're forming the army
Right,
to
right,
take
right.
over the planet and enslave the humans.
Oh, that was sad when she left. You found out she was cheating
was
on him
sad
with
when
like
she left.
3 million other people.
He goes, in Her, that's such a great line. He goes, how many other people are you talking to? She's like, 54,600. It's also it's great writing. It's such a great number. It's just some weird number.
Yeah. So,
But when it comes to The Matrix, like that story, they were so ahead of the curve with the AI story.
Oh,
that
yeah.
So much of that stuff is coming out now, especially Her. I think there's some other stuff that, like, even what's the one? I never watched it. Do Ex Machina. What's it called again?
Deus Ex Machina, which is
Machina.
great, dude. You would
Yeah.
love.
I don't have to watch
You would
it, but I'm like,
love. It's
I
great.
get too freaked out by the thing. But,
It does. You go, oh, I would totally be that guy who gets tricked. Absolutely.
but I think there's going to be more and more of this, and especially with the technology, they're just going to make these amazing AI movies. But this one, there's people who have the theory, that's basically what they did 20 years ago. Is what Elon Musk's theory was about the human race.
Which, oh, yeah, okay.
That it's just, well, actually, no, I guess it wasn't, because his theory is that we're somebody's video game, that we're AI. But, they're basically saying in the movie, AI gets so smart that it just controls the human. So, it's a little bit different. It's more of, it's more Terminator-ish than it is, I guess, what Elon Musk
Right,
does.
right.
But more and more it's getting we're the creation of AI. AI created us.
Yeah.
And that's what his theory was. And he's the one who had. He's like, I'll give, what was it? Like, I'll give scientists whoever proves we're in a digital simulation.
Yeah, right.
I'll give them $1 million, $50 million, something crazy, whatever it was. But
interesting, which is kind of what Ready Player One was kind of about.
That was like apocalyptic. Yeah. Oh, right, because he does. Yeah, what's the end of that again?
There's like the gaming is such a crazy simulation of real life. The guy basically builds. He lets whoever can find the final key in the game. Like he lets them take over like the company, which is like the biggest AI or whatever. Which is
basically like really.
I guess it would be like the equivalent of like Elon Musk's company, which I can't Tesla.
Right, exactly. But yeah, so when it comes to Matrix, watching it that many years later and knowing what knowing what we know about like what even the Elon thing or whatever, I'm like, oh yeah, this is way ahead of its time. Like I remember back when it's now the Matrix is not a big deal, but back when it came out, it was like, what is this gothic movie? Like it's a movie for
totally,
kids.
Absolutely.
What
is that style?
Yeah. It was like the Wachowski brothers. That was definitely, they literally, one of them is a trans woman.
I thought both went over to that.
Oh, you might be right. They might both be. But their style, like, I remember them dressing like Matrix people to like events and stuff. Like I think they signed on for the lifestyle of the Matrix,
Yeah.
I think that kind of thing. But it's good but the only thing that happened is I was like, oh, they didn't have the sequels on the plane, but I was like, maybe when I get home I'll watch the sequels. And then I was like, no, the sequels are just like, they end up being really boring and I'm not into them. But so that was about it. So I did that, and I had the lady looking over, and then I had an old guy there's an old guy to my left. The plane was packed, dude. The plane was packed, like to the point where I was like, I'm kind of claustrophobic right now. It was that packed.
Oh,
and everybody and their brother brings their whole entire suitcase on the thing. And I'm like, check your fucking bag. Just check. Half of you check your bag. Whatever. And to my left, there was a guy who looked like he was 90 years old. And in the beginning of the flight, he was coughing. And midway through the flight, he looked over, and I thought he was dead for a split second. I was like, he might be dead. And so I kind of would look to see if he would like move his hand and stuff, and then he finally did, and I was like, all right, thank God. But I was like, oh, he might be dead. Like he was that old. That's when you know you're getting old, where like if you're napping, you just might be dead. Do you know what I mean? Like there was no it's a 50-50 shot, especially with the way that you nap on a plane.
Oh, dude, are you kidding? My dad's 95. I've been at my parents' house before and watching TV with him, and he just falls asleep every 10 minutes in his lazy boy chair. And there's been moments where I've had to go, hey, Pop, hey, Dad, or I'll make a noise just so he perks up again. I go, okay, not dead yet. I know exactly that look.
Oh, yeah, that's that guy. But he naps. It's a certain way of napping. It's like your head down on your chest.
It's old man dead napping.
Yeah. So
that was about it. That kind of leads into mine. I have I have two like very kind of like precious moments. One doesn't really have to do with a movie, but it was a big enough event and the person was in movies. So a couple years ago, I think it was 2016, I was about to fly. I think we both did this festival, Moon Tower in Austin in 2016. And I was flying down there, and before we took off, I think it was JetBlue, all our TVs were on, and the story of Prince dying literally just went on every single person's TV screen. Because it had happened moments, like while we were taxiing to take off. And I'm sitting next to a woman in her maybe late 40s, early 50s. And we can't, it was one of those things where, when you take off, so you don't hear the audio of the TV, but you can still see the TV because the captain or whoever's talking. It was that. Yeah. And she just kind of put her hand on mine and like held my hand. And we both were like, I know, it's so sad.
Oh my God, she must have been a huge fan.
Yeah, but I mean, who isn't? But then I
it's
tried.
also that's a heightened experience to find out somebody like that died.
Yeah,
because it's such
it
a
was
big deal
crazy.
to people.
I was just kind of like, I know. I better hold my
in your
hand.
head, you're like, yeah, but already people are emotional about having to fly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really strange. And then also to see it, 50 different versions of it, like in different, you know what I'm saying? Like all the seats having it on at the same time. That's a weird scenario.
And then another very memorable one for me, which I always think is really funny. I believe I was flying to San Francisco to do shows. So I was in the air, and I'm trying to decide what movie. I was flipping through the in-flight movies, and I landed on Eddie the Eagle, which I don't know if you remember that movie. It's basically it's about this guy, Michael Edwards. He's a British skier, and in 1988 he becomes the first British skier since like the 20s to represent the country in long ski jumping. And it's a super emotional plot. They make the kid, when he's 10 years old, he's just like dreams of Olympic glory, and he's not very athletic, and he's kind of as nerdy looking. It's played by the Taron Egerton, who is the guy he plays the main character in Kingsman.
This, but I heard about it. Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. It's basically it's an achieving your dreams movie, and it's got he's not special or slow by any means, but it's just like it's like one of those you don't belong, but then you're eventually going to overcome all that and achieve your dreams. And he gets to the Olympics, and Hugh Jackman plays a great role as his trainer, as like his alcoholic trainer, and it's such a great uplifting story. Sean, I swear to God, at the end of the movie, and because I'm an easy touch, I'm sitting there, I have take my glasses off, I'm sobbing in the plane. And the woman next to me, she goes, "Sir, is everything okay?" I was just like, and I had to just be like, yeah, I'm just an asshole. I was crying at this movie. That's when she was just like, oh, all right, weirdo.
Yeah. It's like, well, fuck you, lady. You never cried at a movie before? Come on, relax.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, it was a very nice story.
Funny.
But
That's
yeah,
really
I was
funny.
so embarrassed. I had to pull myself.
For her to say that, you must have been blubber. You must have
Dude,
been like,
I can't. It was so sweet. I couldn't control myself anymore. And I think you're right too. People's emotions are a little heightened when they're in the air.
yes, absolutely.
So between all that, it got to me.
Oh, sure, yeah, because you're already like you're in a freaking flying vehicle,
So-
and your tension is up. Your nerves are up. Everything. It's like just adrenaline's going probably at some point. You know?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I was fucking crying. So
that's funny.
I'll
That's really
defend Eddie the Eagle again, which would be a good one because it could qualify as a great sports movie, and
I
I have an emotional connection to it.
Yeah, you're like the number one fan right there.
And it's a good movie. I'd recommend it to anybody, actually.
Well, let's wrap this up. I think this is a sufficient enough episode. For
We hope you guys enjoyed it. If anybody has any sort of fun travel experiences with movies that we would like to hear about, please tweet us at Defend Your Movie on Twitter, and you can email us at defendyourmovie@gmail.com. Am I correct on that one?
That's correct, yes.
And you can always follow me at Andy Fiore on all social media. I got Laugh It Up in Poughkeepsie, New York coming up on March 20th. Shawnee, where can we find you?
I will be. My next gig is I think I'll be at Go Bananas in Cincinnati in the beginning of April, but I'll mention that again. And then also I'll be in Smithtown, Long Island on I think it's March 16th, whatever that Saturday is, the week of St. Patrick's Day, at the Performing Arts Center out there. I think I think it's for a St. Patty's Day themed show. So come check that out. And then I'll be in Austin at the end of April, but I'll mention that again. So yeah, that's what I got coming up.
All right. Fantastic, buddy.
And
well,
you can hit me up at Shawnee Time on Twitter and Instagram. Too.
Right. Well, we miss you. I'll see you when you get back. And if you're in Vegas, go see Shawnee at the Comedy Cellar in the Rio. And I'll be at the Comedy Cellar in New York City all this weekend. So
if you're in Vegas, you have 2 more days. You have 3 more days. 2 shows a night. You come see me at the Rio at the Comedy Cellar Vegas. The shows have been great so far. We're recording this on Wednesday. And, it's a blast. So if you're in the area, come by and say hello. and tell me you're a Defender, and we'll hug, and we'll kiss, and we'll smooch.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. Love you. Talk to you when you get back, man.
Thank you, my brother. I'll talk to you later.
Later.